Hi YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. So I am now 4 months on testosterone and things are still slowly progressing, but no major changes yet. Some people are saying that they're starting to hear my voice sounding a little deeper or rougher or whatever, so but other than that, there really hasn't been like any oh my gosh, this has happened type of situation. So I won't linger too much on the transition stuff right now because there really isn't a lot to talk about. So I'm just kind of gonna vlog again like I did last time, and this time, well, a lot's going on. I mean, I've already kind of covered it a little bit with the last vlog 2 weeks ago in terms of what's going on with me, what's going on with my dog. I don't really have much of an update for myself. Long story short, I was supposed to go see and I can't pronounce the name of the specialization, but it's an ENT, a ear, nose, and throat doctor. And he's specializes in surgeries and stuff, and thyroid surgeries and that kind of stuff. So I was supposed to go see him, and I had an appointment and I had an address of where the office was, but they kind of forgot one important detail. So I put the address into my Google Maps, and I go to the location, and there's 10 different buildings. And I didn't know which building he was in, so I just drove around a couple of times, couldn't see anything. It was hard to see the names, and there's other cars driving around, so I was like, okay, let me just park. So I went and I parked by one building, and then I just kind of circled around the whole complex and everything. And I circled like 2 or 3 times, and I couldn't find the doctor's name or the name of the office he was in, and that kind of thing. And so I tried to call his office at one point, and my appointment was like at 12:30, and unfortunately their office for some reason is closed, at least in terms of phone calls, between 12 and 1, even though they're taking appointments at that time. So I was all confused with that, but no one answered the phone. You could leave a voicemail, and that was it. And so I was like, at this point I was running really late, and so I kept circling and I kept looking like maybe I missed something, and then I realized that there was a pharmacy in one of the buildings. I'm like, well, let me go over to the pharmacies, let me see if they've heard of this guy and tell me where to go. And just as I'm approaching the pharmacy, I realized there's one other building kind of tucked in the back of this complex there, because the buildings are all kind of scattered in this random pattern thing. It wasn't like all nice neat rows and everything. And so I was like, oh, there's a building I missed. So I walked back there, and sure enough, that was the right building, but I was too late. So I've had to reschedule that appointment until I'm actually going on Halloween on the 31st. So there's no new updates about my thyroid or anything right now, other than I just still need to go see the ENT doctor and make plans for the surgery. So, and still fighting my insurance about paying for the biopsies and everything like that. The bill for that keeps going. So between my thyroid biopsies and then a couple of the blood tests for my hormone levels, right now my insurance keeps denying all of that too, which is great. So I'm looking at almost like $10,000 worth of stuff out of pocket after insurance, or like the fact that the insurance isn't covering most of this stuff. So I'm like, I'm seriously thinking about maybe doing a GoFundMe between myself and Joey. Things are just kind of spiraling out of control expense-wise, and it's just getting kind of scary. So just as a heads up, I haven't launched one yet, but I am seriously thinking about it. I kind of hate to do it, but at the same time, this is just kind of really gouging into the savings that I've been living off of. And you know, my book is out, but I'm not making like 10 grand a month off of it. Right now, I think I'm sitting at maybe $40 of earnings, yay, which is, great and fantastic and all, but it's, not gonna cover all these medical bills. So, just as a heads up about all that's going on right now, because I'm just living off of money that's in an investment account right now, and that's all I'm doing. And long story short about why I've shut down my consulting business and everything else. And you know, if you guys want to know why I did that, there's actually a logical reason why I ended up having to do that. And leave a comment down below if you want me to kind of go into that or not. So I don't know if you guys care. But so right now, until my books sell more and until I have more books out to sell, so I need to get on to next month, starting to work on my next novel and get that written and edited and published, hopefully more quickly than the Coffee to Go novel. Because Coffee to Go, I was hoping I was going to get that done quickly. I was hoping I'd get that written in a month, and that one took me 3 months to write and another 4 months to edit. So that one took me longer than I expected. So I'm hoping with the next novel, if I can get it done in November, then I can hopefully edit it December, January, February timeframe, and hopefully have it out by March. Fingers crossed. We'll see, assuming that life doesn't kind of get in the way of all that. So we'll see how that all goes. Now, you know, enough about me, now talking about Joey. So today, Joey had, let's see, right, because it was 2 weeks ago, I brought Joey in, and I think I talked about this in the last video where I brought him to the vet, and we found a lump on his skull at the vet's office. I literally, and just in case I didn't go through all this detail, I had to bring Joey in for some blood work because he was taking Rimadyl for, basically, he was experiencing some TMJ, with some pain in his jaw and stuff, and so the doctor was like, well, this is pretty common in dogs, let's put him on the Rimadyl, see if that takes care of it. And it did help, but then once I ran out of the Rimadyl, the pain came back. So I'm like, okay, I need to keep him on the Rimadyl. But the doctor was like, well, let's go take his blood work first, make sure that it's not damaging his liver before we put him back on it. So I was at the office, he was getting his blood work done when I felt the lump, and I was like, what the hell is this? And so the doctor immediately aspirated it, did a biopsy, sent that in, and 2 days later we got back, and it's, I've been given several different names for this thing, but the first thing that they told me was a sarcoma with a multilobular tumor of the bone was what it was, and there's another multilobular osteosarcoma thing, whatever. There's a number of different names for it, but basically it's a tumor that grows out of the bone in typically out of it from dogs, even though it's been seen in other species, but primarily dogs. And it's a tumor that comes from the skull primarily, even though apparently they can get it in their joints and stuff as well. But it's a fairly rare type of tumor, but if it happens more frequently in the skull than it does in other bones. And typically it's a very slow growing type of cancer, and typically it doesn't spread to other systems. However, Joey's is definitely growing pretty fast. In fact, so when we first found out about this, I immediately called the oncology center because we have a veterinary school here at our local university, and so we've got a fairly renowned veterinary hospital and an oncology center and everything. So I immediately called them, made an appointment, and his appointment was for the 18th, and it was like a week and a half after we first discovered it, when I noticed that it was growing, it was getting bigger. There was a second, for him, it's between his eye and his ear up here, but then I noticed a new lump forming next to his eye, and then his eye itself is starting to bulge out, and it's gotten really red and everything. And he's having some difficulty with his nose now too, and breathing and stuff. And so it's very likely that it's grown into his nasal cavity. And they said, because they did an oral examination today, and they could see it growing into the inside of his mouth as well. So it's definitely growing, and like in just a 2-week time frame, it's grown that much. It went from like a small golf ball size to much bigger and everything. And so that's concerning. So that's one of the things that's going to happen tomorrow. Is poor Joey's got to be at the hospital tomorrow all day. They're going to do a CT scan. They're going to do a biopsy. They're going to do a whole bunch of tests and things. And then they've already assembled today. They've assembled a team, and he's got a whole team of doctors. He's going to have an oncologist. He's going to have a radiologist. He's going to have an ophthalmologist because his eye is being affected, and one other person, I forget exactly who, a surgeon. And so there's like this team of 4 people who are going to look at all his test results tomorrow and sit down and come up with an action plan of where to move forward, depending on, and the big thing is they're going to do a CT scan of his skull, but they're also going to do a CT scan of the rest of him to make sure it hasn't spread and there aren't other, tumors spreading up elsewhere. And so that's the big thing that we have to worry about is, since it's growing so fast, has it it's metastasized. I forget the how to say that word, but anyway, see whether or not it's gotten to the point where it's starting to spread to other systems or not, because it's growing so fast. Since it's normally a slow-growing type of tumor, the fact that it is growing fast that's the concerning part. So it's like, on one hand, these are normally very treatable tumors, but on the other hand, because it's growing so fast, what will the treatment be? Because normally surgery can excise it, and the surgery alone should be able to take care of it, especially if it's a slow-growing kind. If it's the fast-growing kind, it might be the kind that can't be excised by surgery alone, and chemotherapy or radiation will have to be applied afterwards to keep it from coming back and recurring and stuff. So we will take this one step at a time. But obviously I'm very worried about my pup, and we literally, it's October now. It was like September, October time frame 8 years ago when we adopted him. So have had him in our family for 8 years now, and he's still, like, right now, other than having to take the Rimadyl to keep the inflammation from his jaw down so that he can eat and everything, because that was kind of getting him down a little bit. But now that he's on the Rimadyl, he seems to not have any other symptoms, and so he's still eating, he's still running around, he's still just being a normal, energetic, middle-aged pup, and everything. So he's just too lively and alive to. That was one of the things they talked about. It's like, do you want to talk about curative, or do you want to talk about quality of life moving forward? And I was like, curative, definitely curative. I am not ready to let him go yet, not by a long shot. He was my husband's buddy, and he's now my buddy, and I have Lexi too. I have a sister, but I need Joey. I need both of them. I just lost Dave 2.5 years ago. I don't need to lose one of these guys too. So that's a big thing for me is that. So I'm like, okay, let's take a look and see what we can do to cure him and everything. Obviously, if it gets to a point where it's like, no, it's spread to his other systems, it's really invasive, it's gonna, there's gonna be eventually a cutoff point where it's like, okay, curative really isn't the best choice going forward, and we're just gonna have to focus on quality of life. I'm hoping we don't have to go there. I'm hoping that we found this early enough. The fact that Joey's had this TMJ, that's actually a symptom of this kind of tumor, and so the fact that as soon as I realized he was having pain, I immediately took him to the vet, and we've been treating him and everything, and that we found it. It's like I said, it's grown very quickly. I think the first sign of the TMJ was in August. Brought him back like mid to end of August. Brought him back into the vet in September, like a month later, like mid-September, for the blood work and everything, and that's when we discovered the tumor. And so, and it's out 2-3 weeks later, and now we're trying to, like, it's only been 2 months, and that any of the symptoms have even shown up. It's grown it's developed and grown that quickly. But we've, I've been taking him to the vet and making sure to do things with him from the get-go. So hopefully we're catching it in time, and hopefully it hasn't spread to other systems. And and hopefully we can give him some more happy years of life left. I really hope so. I really don't want to lose him. But at the same time, if it does look like it's going to spread and it's going to, like, if it looks like surgery and curative isn't going to stop this, then I will, obviously, I'll look at quality of life. I'm not just going to put him down right away. I mean, if he looks like he's not in pain, if he looks like he's happy, if he looks like he's enjoying his life, obviously, I'm not just going to put him down just because he's got a damn lump on his head. That's not something I would do. But I've got to prepare myself and steel myself for that being a possibility. Even though I don't want to really think about it, but at the same time, it's like, hey, it depends on what we discover with all the diagnostics tomorrow. So that's what's going to be happening. So I'll update everyone with my next video in 2 weeks in terms of what they discovered, how aggressive the cancer is, what the treatment options are, and what we're going to do going forward. And then, let's see, in 2 weeks from now, I don't remember the date, but whether or not I'll have had my consultation with my doctor about my thyroid and stuff too, and see where, because I've got to deal with, my own surgery as well. So I got to take care of him, and I got to take care of myself too. And I'm like, great. I'm just really glad that I have a really good set of friends, and I know I'm probably gonna be calling on their aid to help me out with stuff, because especially if we're both going through stuff at the same time, this is going to be an interesting juggling situation while I'm still trying to get another novel written and everything else and stuff. So, and like I said, I may or may not set up a GoFundMe to help with all of this, because it's just getting kind of scary in terms of, like, it's not going to drain my savings entirely, but it's going to take a big old chunk out of it, and it's going to give me less time to be able to build up my library of books that I've written and everything, to hopefully start earning a living from the novels, because I figure I need to have, from what I've learned from other novelists who are out there doing the same thing, and this is just looking at the gay romance novels that I write, and not even trying to get my sci-fi out there, and hopefully maybe I'll do well with the sci-fi. I don't know. I'm still working on that. But with the gay romance novels, if I can kind of churn those out, like 2 a year, I'm thinking 2 or 3 a year, maybe, if I'm lucky, if I kind of get into a rhythm of it. I need about 4 to 5, maybe 6 novels out there, and constantly, putting out something new every 3 to 6 months or something. Then I can start earning enough to kind of cover my expenses and cover my living, and not have to worry about whether or not I'm going to run out of the savings. And I say savings, but it's actually an investment account. So while it's not just money just sitting in an account somewhere, it's actually invested in a couple of mutual funds and everything, so it does earn money from the stock market and stuff like that. So it won't drain that quickly, but it's not like I've got millions of dollars in there, because I don't. I won't say exactly how much, but it's currently enough that it's been kind of like, just up until now, since my husband passed away, that it's kind of stayed flat. Like, the money I've taken out has like, I've been earning it back from the investing part of it, and it's only kind of gone down by a few thousand. I haven't drained it. It's not draining like continuously, and it's kind of staying mostly flat. But with all of this stuff coming out, I'm going to drain more of it, and so there's going to be less there to earn from the investments and stuff. So it's just going to give me less time to get my novels out there and everything. And so I'm looking at possibly asking for some help to help cover all these medical expenses, especially since my insurance is like denying, almost $10,000 worth of just tests, just regular blood tests and stuff, hormone testing and testing for my thyroid and stuff. And the thyroid stuff is just because the testing lab that they sent it to was out of network, and my doctor didn't tell me that it was an out of network lab. You know, F me, you know, like I didn't know, so I couldn't say no, and so there's just ongoing fight with all of that stuff going on, so, you know, yay. So, sorry that this is kind of like a downer video, but it's like, this is just all the shit that's just happening to me right now, and it's just like, you know, I'm hoping I don't have anything else, you know, yet another shoe drop, so to speak, because, you know, I've just kind of had it with this year. This is just not, you know, and on top of that is like my first novel just launched, and I should be like happy and celebrating it, like, yay, I've got my novel out and it's selling and people are buying it and I'm getting really good reviews on it, and I'm really happy about that. But at the same time, I've got all this other stuff hitting me that I'm like just wanting to curl up in a corner and just hide from the world. So anyway, I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing me rant about all this stuff, so, and don't even get me started about what's going on politically in the world, other than, if you're not registered, register to vote and vote in November, because your vote counts. Everyone's vote is really going to count this time. I mean, we all saw what happened, you know, how close the election was 2 years ago. It's like, you know, votes count. Let's get out there and vote. I won't say which way you should vote, just get out there and vote. And that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye.